communications through the Dragon spacecraft. It also provides the capability to flow just conditioned cabin air to help them stay cool. Performing a similar function to that blue box we saw them carrying earlier. But then one of the really critical ones that all of the different umbilical points can provide is pressurized nitrox, and that's to, if these suits need to be pressurized for any reason, we can flow that in. If they're in a depressurized cabin, if there's issue with the atmosphere or anything like that, that suit can provide a pressurized, safe environment for the crew members.
You can see on your right-hand screen that all 4 of the crew members are now sitting in their seats. You can see the suit techs there helping them get strapped in or harnessed into each of their seats, and their umbilicals attached to their suits. And every part of this process is very precise. You did see as the crew ingress through the hatchway, the suit techs even put their hand over their helmet. That's a part of the procedure, again, to make sure that they don't damage anything as they enter the vehicle. Same with as they're putting together their harnessing. Again, every step of this process is very precise, and we might be able to see it in a minute here, but they do have some tablets and some pads with them where the crew can follow along with every procedure, every step of the way.
Well, thank you for those social media questions. Keep them coming. Shuttle Gravity asks, why have many of the SpaceX crewed missions launched at night? It's funny. You and I were just
talking about that. I'm not sure that we came up with the answer. It certainly is the case that launch, well, orbital mechanics are complicated. That was my answer, yeah. I think, we definitely came to the agreement that it's a beautiful site. It could also, it's certainly orbital mechanics. Where the space station is important, and I think also probably weather might be, in general, the winds might be calmer at night by the ocean, but that's really just a guess. It's not something that I've tracked closely. I don't know if you guys have talked about it internally.
It is, and the conditions are better at night, but it's exactly as you say. It does come down to where the space station is going to be and how they need to catch up with it. And so when we land at night, the launch ends up happening at night. It's just the way it is, yeah. And that's why we're spending our entire overnight getting ready for this launch. Which it's interesting that they noticed that, because Demo 2 and Crew 1, Crew 1 I'm a little fuzzy on, but I think those were daytime. But Crew 2, Crew 3, Crew 4, all overnight.
All overnight, that's right.
But you notice that the Axiom 1 mission, which was just about 2 weeks ago, that was during the day. So it really just
really
depends
what I remember from shuttle days is that as the launch gets later, the time gets earlier by about 23 minutes or something like that, day by day. Right. So you used to be able to do that launch math pretty quickly. If you knew the mission had slipped a week, it was going to be so much earlier. So it really does have to do with where is the space station relative to the launch site, and you got to launch right when they're directly overhead, and that's how we do it.
And it's an instantaneous window when it is overhead.
When Crew 4 arrives at the space station tonight, they'll officially become Expedition 67 flight engineers. Once on board, they'll do something known as a direct handover, just like what astronaut Megan McArthur was talking about, basically saying that Crew 3 and Crew 4 will be aboard the space station all together until Crew 3 comes home sometime next week. Crew 3 will be able to give Crew 4 an orientation, show them the ropes, which might be particularly helpful for first-time space flyers Jessica Watkins and Bob Hines. A direct handover also helps ensure a continuous U.S. presence on the space station, a record that we've held for almost 22 years. But the space station is an orbiting laboratory, and they'll jump right in on research investigations. So I'll toss it over to Megan Cruz, who can tell us a little bit more about those exciting experiments that Crew 4 will work on.
Chelsea, thank you so much. Yeah, I want to introduce everyone to David Parker here. He's the European Space Agency's Director of Exploration. How are you?
I'm great. Good morning to you.
You are very excited. Well, I do know why you're excited. This is your first launch from here at Kennedy.
It is. It's incredible. I've been working in the industry for 30 years, and here I am, the first launch at Kennedy.
That's so exciting. And you're going to watch Samantha Cristoforetti's second trip to the International Space Station once she launches from here. When she gets there, she'll be working on a lot of science experiments, right?
Yeah, that's true. She'll be working in our European lab aboard the space station. That's called Columbus. And she'll be continuing many experiments that have been started, but some really interesting ones for her mission. For example, she's working on DNA research and related to aging And that's related to one of our own interests, which is osteoporosis, the effects of aging back here on Earth. So it's linking what we're doing aboard the space station to the research that's really relevant to us back here on Earth.
We're getting ready to send Crew 4 to you. How are you getting ready for their arrival?
Well, it's funny you asked, because actually just yesterday we caught the visiting vehicle Cygnus, the SS Pierce Sellers, and brought it on board the space station. And on board that space vehicle is a whole bunch of supplies for Crew 4. So yesterday evening and today we've actually been unpacking it, and part of the supplies that it's brought up are food, clothes, and other items for Crew 4. So we've been starting to distribute those around the station, pre-position them for them, and then when it gets closer in time to them showing up, we'll actually start to unpack those bags and set up their crew quarters for them.
That's right. Phil McAllister, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you.
So talk to me about this being the 4th crew rotational flight to the International Space Station. What kind of milestone does this represent?
Well, it represents that we've been working on these vehicles for, it was 10 years in development. So now after all that development, we're actually flying, and it's very gratifying. And to have 4 missions within 2 years, it's really kind of amazing, and it's really picked up the pace, and it's just what we were working for.
It is T-minus 47 minutes and counting. The SpaceX launch teams are finishing final review of data from checkouts of Falcon 9 over the last hour. The launch director is about to poll the team for readiness, both to load propellant and to launch. And the exciting thing is this is the last poll before we lift off. The 7 SpaceX engineers indicate they are go by electronically voting on the online countdown procedure. The launch director also checks in with Dragon mission director and NASA launch manager to make sure that they are also ready. We are proceeding with the crew arm movement. So that access arm that is adjacent to the vehicle, that's going to start to move to its launch position.
Operators in Fire 4 and MCCX, the control will be in a lockdown state until the launch escape system is disarmed.
It does take a few minutes for the crew access arm to fully retract, and after that we'll be arming the launch escape system. So on screen you can see the Dragon capsule with the crew access arm still in the surface position. The crew is
Crew access arm retraction has started.
So great, we got an amazing shot of the crew access arm retracting away from the Dragon capsule. So again, this is going to take a few minutes to fully retract, and then the next major activity is going to be arming that launch escape system of the Dragon vehicle. So far, weather and range continue to be go for launch. We are monitoring the clearance area around the launch pad as well as air and sea space around the flight corridor.